must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Kenya is a model of peace, an island of peace in the region of turmoil. Kenya presents a unique position in the sense that the banking, the economic hub of the Great Lakes region, the ticking veins of this region remain here. Despite the few hiccups, Kenya has been the center of international conferences ranging from UN. Kenya is also equally the headquarters of one of the major offices of the United Nations in south of Sahara. The United Nations offices in Gigir present a position, a very unique position for this country called Kenya to take on the mantle to lead the other states within the sub-Saharan region for the year 2022. It is therefore very, very important for us to support the Kenyan people, the Kenyan nation, the Kenyan government in search for this slot. The question of my dear brothers of Djibouti, I am a Pan-African. But we have had countries in Africa that always violate African Union Charter and regulations. One of them is Morocco, which is said for 32 years it was not a member of African Union until it saw its own isolation that it decided to apply to be readmitted in the African Union. Djibouti is a member of the African Union. We have quite a lot of things in common with Djibouti. We have educated some of their people here. We have close links. But Djibouti seemed to be taken and whipped, used to whip by one non-African state party that has captured the African Union. If you look at the countries, the 13 that voted for Djibouti, you can tell the story of why African Union has a very big problem and an uphill task in resolving and bringing unity amongst the African states. Therefore, Kenya remains one of the best contenders, and we want to encourage the people of the world to help to vote for Kenya. Thank you.
vipi tutaepuka ili janga la korona, maana kote duniani linazidi kusambaa, ni wengi wametuacha.
Yo guys, it's your boy DJ Euphoric here. So sad coronavirus is here with us. Na sisi wase tunaishi na disability, we have to make sure maze protect ourselves. Clean your assistive devices, especially those parts that zina come in contact with your body, kama armrests, brakes and wheel rims. Disinfect using the approved disinfectants from the Ministry of Health.
Sanitize, osha vizuri mikono yako. Quarantine and it's gonna be alright.
Hi, my name is Christine Enrico. I'm a mother to Elsa Wanjiko. Elsa Wanjiko has a special need. She has cerebral palsy. During this time of COVID-19, everybody is feeling anxious and fearful. As a mother of child with special need, I'd like to encourage all mothers and caregivers that we follow the government directives of wearing masks every time we leave our houses, wash our hands with clean running water, we sanitize our hands and also sanitize the equipment that our child uses, like the wheelchair, whenever we want to take them out. And whenever we want to take our children out for a walk, we should put them on mask and also put ourselves on mask. Stay safe. Komesha corona.
Hi guys, my name is Maureen Dinda, and amidst this coronavirus pandemic, I'd like to urge everyone, including people with disabilities, to always wear masks in public and to maintain social distancing and use of sanitizers. To the people with albinism, I'd like to tell you that use of sanitizers has no effect or harm on your skin, so don't get afraid. Stay at home, stay safe. Komesha corona.
Niaje watu wangu wa nguvu, hapa mimi naitwa Deno. Ningependa kuwashoe kwamba corona si mzaha. Corona iko bana. Corona iko kwa neighborhood. Manze jaribu kaa home. Na kama iwezekani lazima utoke nje kama mimi. Make sure uko kwa mask. Make sure unawea hiyo mask kila mahali. Kwanza sana ukiwa in a public place. Make sure uko kwa mask vizuri sana. Na kama unatumia guide kama mimi, make sure umemhold hapa kwa shoulder, kwa sababu huwezi mhold kwa elbow, kwa sababu hapo ndipo tunatumia ku sneeze. Sasa make sure that ume stay safe, make sure that ume sanitize. Corona ni real manze, cheza clean.
Tuepuke makundi, sura sishiki misi na budi, tusisambaze hivi virusi.
Hello friends, my name is Ben. I'd like to urge my friends, especially the deaf community, that we follow the guidelines given by the government in these times of corona. Don't forget, wash your hands with clean running water. Also, use masks when in public. If you don't have water, make sure you sanitize your hands. Also, keep social distance. Together, we can win corona. Stay safe, stay at home.
Epuka corona. Sanitize, osha vizuri mikono yako. Quarantine and it's gonna be alright. Sanitize, osha vizuri mikono yako. Quarantine and it's gonna be alright. No.
My name is Bishop Dr. John Warari. I come to you to give you hope. 80% of those who have the infection are recovering. So we must not lose hope. Follow the instructions of the Ministry of Health. Simple instructions. 1, we have been told to sanitize, to clean our hands as often as possible. As you wash your hands, do it for about 20 seconds. That one will keep away and destroy the virus that could have been in your hands. It is important for us not to use our hands in greeting each other. For more information,
kindly dial 719 and you will get help, or you can go to your phone and press star 719 hash and you will get more information. Komesha Corona.
Viewers, those listening to this tape or this video, I want to bring to your attention that the politics of proxy wars in Africa is becoming real, and it has become a reality. I want to bring to this the attention of the African states that time and time again we have fallen victims of proxy wars. We fight wars that are not ours. We fall in conflicts that are not supposed to be, don't help Africa, and they don't help our countries at all. The proxy war that is in East and Central and the Horn of Africa has been ignited, supported, equipped by France. It has been very real that the French government quietly through its company called Total Oil has been searching for resources around the triangle of East and Central Africa and Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The LAPSET was one of them, which could have been a landmark project for the people of France. They withdrew from it. The Tanga to Mwanza, they made it, they withdrew from it. The search for oil and resources through Total Oil has brought us the dangers of a proxy war in the region. It is therefore very prudent for people of the region to understand the dynamics that we are going through. For example, in Rwanda and the Burundi conflict, there is a proxy war. We are fighting a proxy country. It has brought us to a war between the two countries, between Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi. There is a proxy war in Congo who is sponsoring a resurgence of rebels that are fighting President Tshisekedi because he was not supported by countries that we know very well. This type of strategy has happened in North Africa, where Libya has been reduced to rebels, where each faction, even the government supported by United Nations, is being bombarded by a rebel called Khalifa Haftar, who is funded by countries that we know. The question of Somalia and the Kenyan maritime presents a challenge, a test case for Africa and East Africa to stand firm and denounce the actions of countries that bring proxy wars and proxy politics in our region. It is therefore my humble submission that for this conflict, for this to end, we must do enough publicity, advocacy around the area to tell and explain to the international community why this problem is going to create an imbalance in the peace in the region, and the regional peace will be affected. It is therefore my humble submission that as a Ugandan whose troops, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers of other many millions Ugandans who are in Somalia, condemn any action by the Somali government to try to resolve issues that should have been resolved amicably as Africans within the African confines. I submit therefore that some of us will go a mile further to do now, from now onwards, to expose, to show the challenges of these countries that make us fight a proxy war in Africa. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you. MATSANGA Africa Perspective. This is Punchline Africa Television broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in the general headquarters of Punchline Africa Television. This morning, Good Morning Show, a show that brings Africa to light, a show that talks about Africa. Today we shall cross over to the United Nations headquarters to look at what happened yesterday. We shall also talk about African unity, the French Anglo and the French rivalry that might create problems in Africa. We shall look at the countries that are standing by Africa. How many of them? Is it our problem? Is it Africa's difficulties that we have exported out to New York? Why is it that every time Africa wants to do something, pulling out of the ICC, it becomes a problem? No African resolution is adhered to. When we say the pull out of the ICC, some African countries went back and worked with the ICC. When we say we have chosen Kenya as our East African nominee for the United Nations non-permanent member seat, some countries go back and start campaigning on their own. Is African Union still worth? Does it have the salt? Is there anything left in it? Is the dream of African Union still valid? Is the dream of African unity still valid? These are the questions that my panel this afternoon will be asked to tell us whether this panel agrees whether the African Union is the same. If Kwame Nkrumah woke up today, started walking the streets of Africa, in Accra, in Nairobi, in Cape Town, in Addis Ababa itself, where he was in 1963, what would we say to us who are still alive? What will he tell the Africans that what happened? When he goes back there and tells other people, Nyerere, Kaunda is still alive. If he sees what is happening in New York, what does Kenneth Kaunda, who's still a living memory for the African unity, what can he say about us? Is Africa united, or is Africa based on Francophone and Anglophone situation? Who is creating these problems? That is what I want my panel to fill in the gaps. I want to introduce my panel. In the far end, ladies first, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning to you and good morning to our viewers across the world.
Thank you very much. Miriam Ogutu is our senior anchor, researcher. She will help me at one end when we are on this subject, and she will be answering quite a number of questions, and she can also ask. On this subject, this show, we learn, we ask, we also asked, we ask. What is it? What has meant? She's very good at asking those questions. She anchors in a better way. That is it, Miriam. Don't hesitate to ask any questions. I'll try to host the show and see how it goes.
All right.
Down below us, not below, but under our management is none other than Daniel Wesonga. Daniel is an investigative person, and he writes quite a lot. His statements on Pan-Africanism are a great encourage for the younger generation. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Dr. MATSANGA, Miriam, and our esteemed viewers in Kenya, the African continent, and the rest of the world. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Let's kick start. Yesterday you saw the figures roll in. You did not sleep. I saw you online. I was also online.
Yes.
The figures as predicted, I said Africa is going into United Nations. And let's start with Miriam. Before I come to you.
Yes.
Figures coming in.
Yes.
Djibouti scores 78. India is overwhelmingly, almost took the whole slot.
They did.
Kenya brings 113. What came in your mind in the first ballot, which took place yesterday?
Well, first of all, 113 against Djibouti's votes, 78. That clearly shows that Kenya has a lot of support, in terms of countries that believe in what Kenya will bring to the table. So that was a vote of confidence, but also, 78 votes there for Djibouti is something that we cannot write off, and now has forced us, to go to another round that is expected, another round of voting that is expected to take place, of course, today. And yesterday, one country did not vote, that is Venezuela, and that is because it owes some money to the United Nations, so you cannot participate in such an event. And so I was, I was like, Kenya did not do very badly, but we needed to get this on the first round. So, but we're still hopeful.
Yes, thank you very much. The figures arrived, they didn't surprise me because I've been monitoring the figures of Djibouti for some time. They first started with a figure was almost 97. But due to the lobby work, when Monica was there, we had about 97, and the rest were on Kenya. And then it went on Djibouti at a certain point before the COVID-19 came. Djibouti, if it had been held before COVID-19, Djibouti would have given us the runner for the money. But the COVID-19 has also hit down the type of campaigning and, publicity. But Kenya has done tremendous work. It is pushed back. It has pushed. We shall come to the reasons as to why we can't push harder. What are the reasons? Wesonga, your position, the same question, like that one I put to Miriam.
Yes, I think garnering 113 votes against Djibouti's 78, then this really shows some goodwill that Kenya is capable in terms of merit and also all aspects regarding being a figurehead in spearheading the peace process in the continent and in the region. And of course, also apart from few allies who deserted us at the time of need, it shows that Burundi.
It is not a question of begging Djibouti. It is a question of lobbying Djibouti. Miriam, do you think our lobby tactics as a country, or do you think the lobby tactics of Kenya put us to a stage where we are now? Did we lobby enough? Do we have friends? Do we really have friends around the world who are genuine friends? Because I'm bringing you to this valley where I'm going to name you some names you won't believe it. Because it looks like the entire African Francophone did vote, except Morocco, Equatorial Guinea. These countries were very sincere, and they have been sincere to Kenya throughout. They voted along with Kenya. Rwanda did not vote with Kenya because in the first round, they voted as a bloc. But Rwanda had already told Kenya they were not going to vote for them because they had been approached by Djibouti. So that Kagame was very straight on that. But Miriam, what What are these? Do we really have the best tactics, techniques of handling lobbyists in Washington, lobbyists in Belgium? You know, people have already picked lobby money. It is not the question of Djibouti now. The lobby money has been taken not from Kenya, but there are countries that put trade in international diplomacy. They say, yes, I will support Miriam, but I'm going to work on ABCD. I need 200 million shillings, dollars. You see, they are lobby groups. Have we put enough mechanism to counter?
I think Kenya did its best, judging from the numbers we got yesterday, with 192 members voting. As I said there earlier, UN has 193 members, but one member could not vote because it has not paid its arrears that it owes the United Nations. So out of the 192 countries that voted, we were able to get 113. So that means we have an upper hand in terms of the number of countries that have confidence in Kenya. Did we do enough? Perhaps not. Or maybe I think it's the strategy or the approach that Kenya took. Kenya was very diplomatic and thought it is a fair play. Well, we saw the way Djibouti was very aggressive in the manner in which it was lobbying, even campaigning. Even I think earlier this year, Kenya had to write a letter, complaining about the manner in which Djibouti was going ahead and campaigning. And it appeared to want to smear a campaign against Kenya, and that Kenya was not very happy because Kenya thought, having that the AU had confidence, and Kenya was going in the confidence that AU had already backed it. And as we have seen, Kenya was voted last year, won I think twice of the voting that happened at the African Union. So Kenya was banking on this, and we've seen majority of the countries in Africa perhaps voted for Kenya because country like Djibouti, it had received, the endorsement of the 57 member organization of the Islamic Conference, and we talked about this yesterday, and also 54 organization of the Francophone countries. But if all these people that had said they had endorsed Djibouti before were to vote for Djibouti, 57, 54, then Djibouti would have gotten about 111, votes. So it appears, even as much as these members were supposed to vote for Djibouti, but no, they still felt Kenya is the best candidate here. And so Djibouti still did not get much. So that means we still have, between now and the time they'll be voting, I don't know if they're still voting at 4 p.m. East African time today, we still have some minds we can change. And, Kenyan diplomats needs to do more in terms of just aggressiveness in a good way, not in the manner in which, Djibouti was doing there. So, yeah, they did the much they could do, but I believe they still would have done much. And I think we still have a window and room for change.
Yes, and Miriam, also something to note is perhaps that it shows the underbelly of AU's loosened foothold on the African continent, because of course no one expects that.
We shall come to AU, but take on the route of Miriam, the same lobbies first.
Okay, so from my end, I think Kenya performed moderately. Of course, in the previous shows, we've been talking about strategies, perhaps that our Ministry of Foreign Affairs would have employed in lobbying these people to vote with Kenya. And of course, in some essence, there was some shortcomings, but right now we can't complain much because already we are at the ballot. And whatever we have to do is to wish that the best of all scenarios happens. But I think we could do better in terms of strategy in lobbying these people to vote with us, because you understand that we had a majority of countries that abstained from the previous voting. So if we could have a good strategy, then we will be able to with these countries to come and vote for Kenya. So I think, as much as we perceive to have done better, but we need also to explore the strategy that we use, so that in future, if we have such a scenario, then Kenya will have an easy sail in getting such a position. So I think we need to revamp the kind of strategy that we have.
Thank you very much. A strategy that we have. Would you like to elaborate more? What is the strategy? What was it? Do we have any defined foreign policy? Do we have activists centered in New York? Do we have lobbyists? You remember when Kibaki wanted to take the seat?
Yes.
In the year sometime back during Kibaki, you saw how there was shuttle diplomacy, the traveling. Of course, now the question of COVID-19, people were not able to do last minute engagement.
Yes.
I've already told Miriam on the show this morning that the rules of United Nations engagement of 40, we should have voted until midnight of American time until we come out with a decision. I am of the opinion that leaving a day in the middle, then come in the morning to vote, we have destroyed ourselves. We gave, the UN has literally given a briefing space for Djibouti, because Djibouti seemed not to be pulling out. It seemed to be digging in.
Yes.
So if we don't plug about 20 countries from Djibouti to stop it completely, and the Miriam talked of 4 p.m., it's not, it's 2 p.m.
Okay.
of
Yes.
East African time, which means it's about 9 o'clock around there, 8, because people want to finish it once and go. So if we don't pull it out and we get a market situation, how have we approached Djibouti? Lastly, what has the AU, now we come to your point, what has the AU done? Do we have a whip? What does the law in AU say? You whip them. Why don't we put sanctions? Why don't we reform AU to become a place where we put sanctions on you? Once we decide something in Addis Ababa, and then you don't do it, then we give you, either you don't attend summits, you go home for some time. We need to introduce some measures to whip the leaders of these African countries that put us in a dilemma status. This is a dilemma status. There was no need of sweating, Miriam.
And also, when you look at yesterday, there were 5 votes that were taking place for the Western world. There's supposed to be 2 countries, and then for the Asia Pacific, which India took very comfortably. They are garnering 184 votes out of the 192 countries there, and it appears a few countries absconded. I would assume a country like Pakistan did not vote at all because they're not in good terms with India there. And you see on the other side, of course, Mexico, Norway, and Ireland took, and Canada, of course, lost there. And they went, and the votes happened, and they were successful. It's very interesting that it's only in Africa that now we have this tag of war, that we cannot decide even who can represent us at the United Nations, Security Council and permanent members. So this says a lot about AU and the authority it has in this continent, or lack thereof, and the manner in which Africa, the confusion we see a lot of times in the leadership, and so it does not only play here. Now we see it playing out there at the United Nations Security Council in a bigger world platform. So it's sad that it's only Africa, it's only the African slot that has to go through another round of vote, while the others went on successfully and they've moved on, and we still have to go there, and it will continue until a leader is gotten, because the vote has to continue. So we don't know the end of that vote. Doctor, there might be another vote scheduled for tomorrow if you don't get a clear winner today, because the winner has to garner at least 120, is it 27 or 27 votes, the 2/3 of that. So it is a shame that it's only Africa that still has to go on another round of voting, and who knows, it might continue until God, I don't know when.
And Miriam, before maybe I comment on that, Dr. MATSANGA has raised, and also yesterday he talked about the same issue, that Kenya, perhaps in terms of strategy, we would have approached these activists, these lobbyists who know somebody somewhere, who knows someone in those countries. And of course, we have to ask ourselves questions. How come these are Francophone countries in Africa, which knew very well that Kenya was the AU endorsed country for that seat, went ahead and voted against Kenya. So, of course, the answer lies in the fact that there is someone from either the Djibouti side who went to them with the points that are well aligned with what they want. And of course, now that is what shifted their way of voting. So Kenya needs to invest a lot in that, using people that can move around, because they know these particular countries, they know the kind of issues they face, they know the kind of interests they have. And of course, Nelson Mandela once said that if you talk to a man in a language that he understands, that goes to his head. And if you talk to him in a language that in his own language, that goes to his heart. So we need people who can talk to these people in their own language, people who understand what they need in these all their interest in all these matter, so that whenever we have such a scenario, then we have to vote. They have to vote in our favor. And number two, on the issue of Africa, I believe Djibouti is a very strategic country in terms of its geographical location, and both China, US, and France are much interested. And of course, China has also set up a naval base and invested even in the railway and other infrastructural development projects in Djibouti. So it becomes a center of interest, and perhaps that is why they're trying to bring Djibouti as a compromise candidate to cause some discord and maybe deny Kenya a chance the UN Security Council.
And perhaps that will serve the interest better, yes.
Miriam, Ethiopia did not vote with us. Are you surprised?
I'm not really surprised when you look at the recent political events and dynamics. Yes.
But before you come in, did I predict well when I said it is shooting our planes?
But it did.
I predicted here, said Ethiopia shoots down Kenyan planes in Somalia.
And it confessed.
With us.
The first shooting, it said it did, but they're saying it is an accident, and that is something that they have to do proper investigations, because there's no way that can be an accident. I mean, you don't just shoot a plane up there like that. It's not possible. So I'm not surprised if at all Ethiopia did not vote for Kenya, because of the recent, of course, political dynamics that has been happening in the region, and the realignments and the meetings they've been having in secret with President Afwerki, with President of Somalia, and we know where Kenya is with Somalia right now. And these two countries have been the ones who have been adding some fuel to the fire, below the radar there. So I'm not surprised that Ethiopia chose not to take Kenya's side, because they're looking after their own interest, and where they stand right now with Somalia and Djibouti. I think they're just looking out for their own interests. I'm not surprised that they did not vote for us.
Daniel?
Yes, and I think I totally agree with you. And Miriam, you know, they say lightning does not strike a tree twice. Ethiopia shot down our plane the first time. It would have, if it happened once, we would have assumed that maybe it was an error. But for the second time, really shows the intention that these people had towards us. And maybe perhaps it was just a prior warning to Kenya, telling them that we are no longer forging a peaceful path with you. Maybe we are in the coming days, we're not gonna be speaking the same language with you. So Ethiopia, on my side, I think it has declared that whatsoever happens, it has no common interest with Kenya. And perhaps now that is the reason why it is standing with Djibouti. And from its actions before the vote really show that these people are not going to side with us anytime soon. So I think it's high time Kenya started also reevaluating its friendship with countries that never stood with us on this vote. And we have to be very keen on that, so that in future we have policies that ensure that we get into agreements, trade agreements with the countries that are really in our support, like Britain, those that stood with us firmly to the end.
Thank you very much, Daniel. But surprisingly, the intelligence coming out of United Nations last night, I picked something at about 2 p.m. 2 a.m. is the Arab world
Yeah.
voted with Kenya.
It's very, and I wanted to say that because if you were to look at the voting patterns, because they'd come out and advise their members to vote for Djibouti and the Arab world, they have the Islamic cooperation there, they have 57 members, and also the Francophone cooperation countries there, there are 54 members. As I said there earlier, if all of them were to go the same way the leadership of those organizations wanted to vote for Djibouti, Djibouti would have had 111 votes. So the fact that Djibouti got 78 votes, that speaks a lot. That says that there are actually countries, especially here in Africa, that perhaps are trying to define their own way of diplomacy. As much as they're saying they are in the organization of the Islamic Cooperation or organization of the Francophone countries, but they're saying no, we have a relationship with Kenya, and it is important for us to foster this relationship because it's working with our country. So a lot of countries here in Africa, I believe, really did not vote as they were expected by this organization. So that also says a lot about perhaps the diplomacy and the friendliness, the good relationship Kenya has been having with some of these countries that are inside these organizations that chose, despite of what the organization wanted them to do, they say we are going to vote with Kenya. So that is a vote of confidence for Kenya.
And in fact, most of the countries from the world, the Arab world, three quarters of them gave Kenya a vote, compared to the French-speaking countries on the block in Africa.
Yes,
Some of them even scared me. But I want to bring you to another country very close to Kenya, which did a hop, step, and a jump.
Which one?
I saw this same country in Addis Ababa 4 years ago when Amina Mohammed was contesting for the AU chairperson. I met one of the presidents. I met somebody in the toilet. In fact, they were discussing this in the toilet. And I happened also to be in the one of the uranium places for short call. And when I came out, they said, "Oh, you are here." So I was not surprised yesterday from the intelligence I've gathered that this country again also did not support Kenya. The only country in East Africa, the only countries in East Africa that stood by Kenya are South Sudan, Uganda, Burundi.
What about Tanzania? I'm interested to know because
I am also. Why don't you see why I'm not mentioning?
I want to know.
Yes.
Oh, really?
And yes. I think this is
that's the analysis changes today. But yesterday the pattern was very clear. Yesterday the only country that stood by another superpower that stood by United States of America showed Trump stood all the way.
I expected that. I'm not surprised that the US voted for us because they're trying to curb China's influence in Africa, and Kenya is a very strategic place for the United States and also for China.
Yes,
so they have to act right.
United States showed the way. France stuck on this other side. China waffled. Russia delivered. You see, we want the countries of that nature, decisive. So we call upon them today, as they wake up today in the United States, to think as we open at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, let them think seriously.
Yes.
What are the values that you need to put in place? Is Djibouti big enough? Is Djibouti's diplomacy huge enough to engage the whole area of the Great Lakes region up to southern part of Africa? Because this is a country which is representing sub-Saharan Africa. Part of sub-Saharan Africa includes Sudan, Ethiopia, up to Cape Town, excluding the other sub-Saharan Africa of Nigeria, where the West African link has got their representative. Do we have enough? Does Djibouti have enough type of diplomacy? I told you yesterday, Miriam, that there is a problem of three strands of chaos. Chaos, the third chaos, why Kenya is having some members running out and in and out, is because of they are seeing George Soros across the bridge near the UN headquarters. George Soros has a very important factor in Djibouti. It has got an institute in Djibouti, a very senior heritage institute in Djibouti that commands the policy, the governance of the people of Djibouti. That is also another factor that Kenyans in the future should look at. Another factor that is bringing us is that Djibouti, because we have to counter what the arguments of what Djibouti is putting forward. Djibouti is saying we are involved, Kenya is involved in arbitration chaos over the Indian Ocean. It doesn't hold the power. Kenya has agreed to go to court. The court will make a decision. There is nothing that Kenya has refused to do. It has not occupied the territory. But remember, Miriam, one thing, and Daniel,
Yes.
one thing that is still stuck on my mind. How can these countries refuse to endorse Al-Shabaab as a terrorist group? What are they doing behind the scenes, which African intelligence and external intelligence services don't see? Because there are some intelligence services that are not seeing what is happening in Somalia. What is happening in Somalia is a very, very, very interesting scene. Djibouti, Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea, they have carved a territory of negotiating with Al-Shabaab, and they have left out Kenya. If people are not telling the people the truth, me, I'm telling the truth. I have facts. I can even produce for you the hotels where such meetings in Asmara and Doha have taken place. But they have left Kenya out of this matrix. Why? Kenya has put its troops in Somalia. So we can see this conflict has taken a center stage at an international level in New York. Yet the problem is not Kenya's. The problem is the 4 countries that have decided to talk to Al-Shabaab directly. Because they know where Al-Shabaab is. We don't know. They house them. We don't house them. They give them uniforms. Have you ever asked where Al-Shabaab gets new uniforms? Better than the uniforms of the armies that are fighting them. Where do they get the new uniforms?
Yeah, they're quite unorganized. They're quite an organized military unit there, the Al-Shabaab. But it's very interesting, Doctor, this matter of, if the United States are refusing to proscribe Al-Shabaab, it baffles me. I've never understood, because Al-Shabaab, by any other name, is a terrorist group. I don't care what it is. It has all the hallmarks that requires it to be proscribed as a terrorist group. And just the other day, during those protests we've been seeing in the United States, this group is a coming together, convergence of intellectuals there in the United States who are also part of the organizations that were organizing the protests that were happening there in the US. And President Trump was very quick to say, these are terrorists. They should be proscribed as terrorists. And this is a coming together of intellectuals there, black intellectuals, majority of them there in the United States, who are just trying to help in saying that their lives matters, black people's lives matters, their minorities, they do matters there in the United States. And President Trump was not very happy, and it said these people should be proscribed as terrorist group, and they did not even carry out the acts that we see being carried out with Al-Shabaab. They're just protesting, and a few people there we saw looting and doing things that were not okay. But when you look at and Al-Shabaab, the group Al-Shabaab, and the things that has been done, even the U.S. has been first-hand victim. We saw the bombing of their own embassy here, and we've seen it is. They have been affected. So I don't know, the fact that they do not want to proscribe Al-Shabaab, they should tell us. I think there's more to this, Doctor. It's not just that they don't want to proscribe Al-Shabaab. They should tell us what is happening, what is the back story, what are they trying to protect, who are they trying to protect. They should tell us if at all they're genuine in the partnership that Kenya has with the U.S. in fighting terrorism in this region.
Yes, and Miriam, maybe before Doc chips in, first of all, I want to comment on a topic that Dr. Matsanga brought on board, and this is about our neighbors. And some of our neighbors have brought out a notion in this vote, like maybe perhaps Kenyans, the country Kenya, we are enemies with them, some kind of enmity that is going in between them. They need to understand that we are neighbors, and even in 2017, when Ethiopia was going for the same seat, Kenya was solidly behind Ethiopia, and they need to realize that due to our geographical location, how we are situated, then we are interdependent on each other, and we are neighbors. And they say that God, you can choose who your friend will be, but God chooses for you who your neighbor will be. And therefore, there's much a lot that you are interdependent on one another. So as even they continue in this game of trying to lock out Kenya, they need to reconsider that in the coming future, there will come a time when they will also be going for not necessarily the same seat, but a particular maybe position that requires Kenya's support. So they need to reconsider that. And they say that if you are digging a pit for your enemy, don't make it too deep. You might, you may fall into it also. So let them consider that this time it's Kenya's hour of need, and they need their support as an African country. But also, if they deny Kenya this position on such flimsy grounds, then let them remember that also in future, as Kenya is today, they might also need Kenya's support in going for a particular international position. So it's a quid pro quo. Let them remember that.
And Doctor, speaking about our diplomacy, I'm trying to think as to why maybe some of the countries here in the region, because you're saying you did not mention Tanzania as a country that voted for Kenya, and I didn't know, I know we have issues, but I didn't know it to that level, because I thought when it comes to that, they might want to be loyal to us as an East African community. Yeah. So yes.
I am intelligence reports
yes,
from
they did not
inside
vote. Yes.
UN. The country are clear, those voted.
So yes.
That voted for Kenya, any diplomat who is in New York is, I was in direct link
with the people who voted.
Who are these?
Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to think, what could be the reasons as to why a country like Tanzania would not vote for us? Because I remember maybe a few months ago when Kenya entered into a trade agreement between it and the United States, we remember the member states of the East African community were not very happy, and some African countries are not very happy because they're saying this breached the spirit of the East African community and also the continental negotiations that has been going on between Africa and the U.S. So when Kenya decided to go solo and do this bilateral, agreement with the United States, that did not sit very well with some of countries here in Africa. So could this be one of the reasons, among perhaps others, that they felt it is a threat, and perhaps they feel should Kenya given this opportunity, it might, I don't know, advance the interests of. Could that be one of the reasons why?
Medium. Mm-hmm. There is something that I wanted to ask. Mm-hmm. Is Kenya's foreign policy based on reality or myth? Is it on reality is it based on reality or on facts, or based on what? On reality or assumption? Can any of you have a go at it? Is it based on reality or assumption? Do we assume that Ethiopia likes us? We have assumed for a long time that Ethiopia, being our neighbor, northern neighbor, likes us.
Yes.
There is somebody who has brought a stupid idea within the Kenyan foreign policy that Ethiopia likes us. Until now, we have arrived in Mogadishu and Somalia, where Ethiopia is targeting our planes. We still say Ethiopia likes us. No. I think that must come for us to tell a spade a spade. This nation, Ethiopia, does not like Kenya. The founding fathers of the two nations were great friends.
Yes,
but the geographics or demography that you see around here does not favor the current situation to continue with the status where Ethiopia was the founding father of the African Union with Jomo Kenyatta. Ethiopia at the moment has a different arrangement. I told you that from the day Ethiopia crossed over and shook hands with a vacuum, people assumed, and we have been told lies here, something that I'm not going to keep quiet. We have been told lies for all these years that Ethiopia was with us. No. Someone has been saying Ethiopia is our friend, I will handle Ethiopia. It is wrong. It is high time that you saw and told, because we have military people on the ground in Somalia. We are fighting. Ethiopia has its sector. We have our sector. But Ethiopia violates the normal rules of engagement in Somalia. In their sector, there are men whom we don't know who shoot our planes and then disappear, and then they say we don't know. Does Kenya's foreign policy based on reality
or assumption?
Or assumption? If there is an intelligence officer amongst you, tell me, how do you tell your situation that we assume? Do we assume, or there is reality? Because there has been this thing that has been spread around the foreign policy of Kenya, assuming that every nation is with us. I saw it in Addis Ababa when Amina Mohammed lost. Miriam, I want to tell you, I was one of those people in Addis Ababa who was very frank. Some people were pretending. The pretenders, I know them. And they are still masquerading around that foreign policy, that they know something. They don't know. There is nothing there. Ethiopia is, as long as Ethiopia shook hands, Tigray Liberation Army. Let me tell you, there were 3 people. And for your future, and for those listening who claim to know anything about foreign intelligence systems, let me tell you, there were 3 commanders, or 4, well-organized commanders of Tigray Liberation Front. The first commander, who became the blue-eyed person of the West, who was with me, is the late Zenawi. May his soul rest in peace. The second commander was Efaki. Efaki, the president of Eritrea. If you take this photograph now and show to the president of Eritrea, he will tell you he knows me. The most important thing that Miriam we have to check here. And the third commander is Commander Tedros. Is called Comrade Tedros. The Dr. Tedros, those were the most well-known commanders of the liberation that took out Mengistu Haile Mariam. We were together in the same office in London. We stood together. We stood by each other in the same office in London. I know who they are. So anyone purportedly younger people here running around here that we know Ethiopia is with us because you studied NGO politics, forget it. They are not. The only man who was with us is passed away. The man currently there, the Prime Minister, Abe, is an NGO Prime Minister. And he doesn't like any inch of Kenya, of what Kenya does. That's why they are forming a united stand to solve the problem of Al-Shabaab, excluding Kenya.
But how can they exclude Kenya with Kenya among these other African countries? Ethiopia has not even suffered the way Kenya has suffered. So
and Miriam,
how does that even make sense?
I think just by the notion itself, they're trying to create, by not admitting that Al-Shabaab is a terrorist group, then they're trying to tell the world and the people of Somalia that Kenya is unfairly taking its troops on the soil of Somalia. Because if you paint Al-Shabaab as not being a terrorist group, then you mean that Kenya as a country has taken its soldiers in the land of Somalia to fight its civilians. Because what we are fighting there is what they're denying that is non-existent. And also on what Dr. MATSANGA said, I think developing a strategy of diplomacy based on assumption, it's very suicidal and it's a fallacy in its design. And even in history, when you look at the most developed economies, like in 1941, we had the stalemate between the Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. And by that time, Joseph Stalin and his government imagined that Adolf Hitler could not attack the Soviet Union because years before they had enjoyed quite a cordial relationship. And they just rhymed in terms of policies and the agenda they had for their people. And even before that, they had signed some pacts in terms of economic cooperation and as well as political cooperation between the two countries. And when Stalin was being told that Hitler was planning to attack the Soviet Union, he did not agree to that. He felt that he wrote on the assumption that this could not happen because Hitler was a leader of his liking and they had a lot in common. But unfortunately, on the Sunday of 22nd of June 1941, the worst happened. Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, and that is what marked the Operation Barbarossa. So I think as a country, if it's very crucial that we develop a strategy that is much awakened rather than relying on assumption that these people are behind us in any kind of support. Let's stop assuming because it puts our country in jeopardy. We have been imagining that Ethiopia is in our support for the longest time possible. But if whatever happened yesterday is anything to go by, then I think we are on our own in regards to that. So I totally agree with Dr. Matsanga. We need to review our strategy when it comes to foreign policy.
And just to add on,
Yes.
on what
Miriam, go ahead.
Daniel has said there, Doctor, I think, yeah, maybe on one side, we perhaps our diplomacy acted on an assumption to the fact that Tanzania will vote for us, Ethiopia will vote for us, and other countries that we've felt have been, we've had a sort of substantially good relationship, so they assumed that perhaps these countries would vote for us. And so in that regard, they perhaps did not engage properly, did not engage diplomacy to the levels that would have convinced them to vote for us, because they assumed these countries are with us and they're going to vote for us during this seat. So perhaps that is a lesson that Kenya will have to learn moving forward and see how to engage in future, regardless of how the vote will turn out today or tomorrow, or until they get a clear winner, because they have to get a clear winner. If not, then Kenya will be forced to share the slot with Djibouti. Kenya will have to go for a year, and then Djibouti will have to go for the next year. Usually you go for 2 years, so they have to get a clear winner. If not, then that will be the case. Or if Djibouti decides to step down, which I doubt at this point Djibouti would even want to consider stepping down, and if they would, well, that will be a nice surprise for the rest of us and for the rest of the United Nations members there who want to get done with the voting. But on the matter, on the issue of Ethiopia, I think that we've not seen the level of aggression between Kenya and Ethiopia. It has not happened before in the magnitude that we are seeing today. So I think the Kenya government and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they should engage in diplomacy and find out what is the problem we have with Ethiopia. We have not seen this level of aggression. There has to be something, and Kenya should engage, because we cannot say now we're going to take our troops to Ethiopia. We cannot say now we're going to take... They need to find out what is the problem. Yes. What is it that we're fighting? We don't even share a border.
My dear, there's something that you are saying which we need to go to put on record. There is serious, unless you are meaning Djibouti and Kenya. Yes.
Yeah.
But Ethiopia and Kenya, there is a fallacy that has been
that we are
perpetuated by somebody in the Kenyan foreign policy, that Ethiopia likes us. Time has come to speak out. Ethiopia has happened since the change of guards. The other prime minister was good.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
This other one who came in now is not very good for us.
And that's what I'm saying, Doctor. And sorry, yes, we do share a border with Ethiopia there.
We share the same.
Yes, we do. But
hit the point that there is a fallacy, an assumption created in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kenya that Ethiopia is our friend.
But maybe, Doctor, is not a fallacy per se, because Kenya perhaps does not know that we had a problem with Ethiopia. From where we stand, we don't have any. And now we see from Ethiopia's end, they seem to be having some. We've seen them engage in some level of passive aggressiveness and even outward aggression. When we see the plane from Kenya having been shot, I mean that is outright aggression. So I think, Doctor, now that we know the assumption is not working and it is a fallacy and there is a problem between Kenya and Ethiopia. Now can the Kenyan government, because we cannot afford to be not in good terms with this country, not to be in good terms. It's not beneficial for us and for the region. So can perhaps now the government of Kenya try to engage diplomatically with the government of Ethiopia and find out what is going on? Because when you come to Kenya here, there's sections when you go to a place like Pangani, you see a lot of Ethiopians and Eritreans who stay there, and they're welcome in this country, they're comfortable. So we've shared this, a good, relatively good relationship before with the previous leaderships, maybe not all of them, but with Abiy Ahmed, the level of aggression we've been seeing is just out of this world. And I think perhaps we need to engage. We need to engage diplomatically, though.
I agree.
And find out what is the problem. What are we fighting for? What is it?
Why you're asking a very good question. Yeah. What's the problem? The problem is us. The problem is the foreign policy of Kenya. the formulators. When Dr. Monica Juma was there, she assumed everything to be ours. You couldn't give advice on Ethiopia. She says she knows it all. Why don't you speak the truth? Why are you rambling? Let's not ramble now. You and I, we always sleep. When we wake up to say it, we say it. If it's corrected, it's corrected.
It's corrected. Yeah.
You get a point.
Yeah. But we should stop with the assumption.
Perspective says it as it is. Dr. Monica Juma was in the Foreign Affairs Ministry. You could not talk about Ethiopia in her presence. Let her hear, and let those who follow her hear me. I have evidence which I can table. Anybody who wants me, challenge me on that, I will table it. Utter anywhere. And that is where we went wrong. We assumed Ethiopia is a great friend of ours. And when you talk about it, they silence you. They call you names, oh, that man, that man. No, this man talks the truth. And I was telling them that one day some of these things you are doing will bite you. Okay? They will bite you. We are having a problem. We have troops in Mogadishu. And one of the things I like Museveni is for being frank.
Yes.
Museveni listens to advice even from rebels like us. He will listen. We don't like him. He will listen and even make sure that he sends a note to say, you are right. You find his person bump into him in Nairobi. He says, oh, the other day the president was commending your work, MATSANGA, for saying some things. We have troops in Somalia, for goodness sake. And let people not lie to people, to the systems. Isn't it, Miriam? Because we are going to have these guys turn on our people and kill them in Somalia. We don't want dead bodies. We don't want those young men to die in Kismayo.
And that's why I'm saying, Doctor, can Kenyan government engage now diplomatically and find out what is this? What is the problem? What is going on? Can we sit on the table and find if it is something that can be solved, we solve it? Because I don't think, yes.
That's why I brought this question.
Before we talk about sitting diplomatically and maybe sorting out this issue, of course, by all design, Ethiopia has shown no willingness to have a very amicable solution to the stalemate that we have with them today. Up to now, I don't think a lot of Kenyans know whatever problem the Ethiopian government has against our country. And I think it is very wrong for the government to develop a strategy that is akin to reciting a poem to someone who has come to you with arrows. You know, we need to have a very tough foreign policy. If Ethiopia cannot sit on the table with us and have an agenda that befits both of us, then it's time to close all the relations we have with them, and we can look for another equal partner that we can be able to transact
I
with.
think that will be very drastic for the interest of this region, because
when you look at the occurrence that has been happening in Somalia, they have shot down 2 of our planes. Kenya has never shot down an Ethiopian plane.
Yes.
We have always been that peaceful neighbor that always has a regard for the relations that we have. But going back to Ethiopia, it has shot down 2 of our planes yesterday.
And that's what I'm saying, and that's why I said Daniel, because I also don't recall any process of diplomatic talks between Kenya and Ethiopia to try to find out the root cause of this aggression that we're seeing. So we need a process launched. We need something being done, because we need to get to the bottom of this and find out what is the problem we have for us. And one of our viewers is saying that perhaps Ethiopia is threatened by Kenya economically. Well,
yes,
among other reasons.
You are now talking.
Yes.
Now we are coming. Miriam, thank you very much. Nobody is All of you are correct. But still, you haven't hit my answers I want. I wanted you to, I asked one question. Is it on reality or on assumption? The answer Miriam has answered successfully is let's seek. Time has come. Miriam has said time has come for us to ask a hard question. I agree with you. Wesonga has cried, yes, our 2 planes have gone down. I have added by saying we have troops there.
Whose life?
Our role is to protect this younger generation there. But if we have a hostile neighbor who is working with Al-Shabaab to kill our troops, then we must seek and find out. But the bottom line is this. Why has this been there? Why? Miriam, yes, now we see the problem. It has exploded in New York. We assumed everything was so well until yesterday. And maybe even today at 2 p.m. in about 1 hour and some minutes.
But now
for me, the position is this. There was a policy of fallacy. Someone sat on a wrong policy in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Take it from me, because you know this show is being watched by students. There are people who are doing their diplomacy and international relations who are seated at home.
Yes.
Several of them have written to me. Why I brought it today, Miriam, is people have said, what happened to the show? On my, here, I received about 72 saying, where's MATSANGA Africa perspective? We want to know more about this. We want our students to take facts.
Yes. And also,
that we are also contributing to our COVID program.
So, Doctor, you're saying there has been a fallacy, and going from what I was taught in my communications class, a fallacy means a mistake in thinking. So that means there has been a mistake in thinking that Ethiopia is our buddy over here.
Exactly. Okay. Not even in thinking.
A mistake in reasoning. Sorry.
For example, someone stopped us to ask these questions, which you are now today saying, we have people in Pangani, they are sleeping very well. We don't have a problem.
Ethiopians and Eritreans, they're the ones who are there, and then from there Somalis are going.
Yes.
And we're okay.
Where is the problem? Because we have been sitting on a time bomb of fallacy, a false premises.
A false premises, yes. Oh, you've taken me back to critical and thinking class, yes.
Yes, assuming Ethiopia was a great friend of Kenya, it will vote for us in the United Nations. Assuming Ethiopia was a great friend of Kenya, will not work with Faramijo to team up to say, yes, we are the commanders of Sector 2, where the plane landed, but whoever shot the plane, they are unknown Ethiopian people, not ours. Have you seen the fallacy? We have been sitting on that, and some people in the ministry there have been lying
to the government of Kenya.
Now time has come for us to expose the liars in that ministry who put this type of stupidity to a government central. Yet we have troops. We have troops. Last week, 3-4 weeks ago, Miriam, we had troops. Money coming from Qatar and passing through Uganda. Then it comes to Kenya. Then it goes to support Al-Shabaab. Didn't you do that story? Did we get it from the moon? Have you seen anybody saying that is not true? They kept quiet. There are people here cleaning the money. And these are the most dangerous people that we want to tell the Kenyan authorities to be alert that money comes from Qatar. Our troops are in Somalia. It passes, it is cleaned. It is sent back to Addis Ababa to Mogadishu to kill our people. We did a show with you. We have that evidence. I think it can be brought back here. This is the same style that is happening in all Kenya. When Kenya wants the vote, Farimajo says, I will vote with Djibouti. Ethiopia says, I will vote with Djibouti. Because they know what they are doing. None of these terrorists sleep in Kenya, we don't know. They are not here. Where do they get these uniforms? We don't know. Who buys the uniforms? We now know. So time has come, as you said, to have an eye-to-eye discussion.
A candid
Why?
discussion, yes.
Thank you. We have a few minutes. We would like to look at this stage. I have just received a message from New York, from my man inside the state, who is in New York. You know, we are not sleeping. And he said, at this stage, where Djibouti is trailing Kenya, Djibouti should have withdrawn a candidate in favor of AU moral fiber.
AU has a moral fiber.
Wait, but it is still holding on. Yet by now, they have slim chances of winning that seat. So let it is gone. Wait. This is Miriam. I will send it to you.
All right.
Jesus Christ. It is very, my man, thank you very much, comrade. He says, all of them are very disturbed by the attitude of Djibouti. It is not holding down.
Yeah, because that would have been the right thing to do for it to step down. And, you know, I don't think Djibouti has decided to be stubborn, and it shall continue being stubborn, and because of the people who are pushing it to be stubborn. And so we may never see really the end of the voting unless it steps down or it gets more votes, or it decides, Djibouti decides now we have to share this load. So Kenya goes for 1 year and then Djibouti the next year, which will not make a lot of sense because Kenya probably will have more votes compared to Djibouti. So the right thing to do for Djibouti would have to step down, but it's too stubborn to do that.
Yeah, I think Djibouti's intention has well been known, and it has come on board to spoil for Kenya. And I think that is, from my own perspective, I think that is the position they're gonna hold to the end, so that they just make sure that Kenya does not have a chance in winning this position. So I think the African Union at this moment cannot even help, and more so, this scenario has also shown the underbelly of the African Union on its weak foothold on the African countries. Because going by the endorsement, then it's expected that a majority of the countries will come in the support of Kenyan's bids, but that is not what is happening at the moment.
Thank you very much. Miriam, I just want to give you both of you, at least a minute or 2 minutes to sum up your parting shots, wishing Kenya a pleasant victory.
Pleasant victory. I did yesterday, and when we were finishing the show,
Let's begin.
Yes.
Let's begin with me. Ladies first. Daniel or Miriam, let's change a bit of protocol.
No problem.
Because you are senior, let's begin with Daniel.
Yes, and of course to our esteemed viewers across the continent and Kenyans at large, I would really like to show my ardent support for the position that Kenya is running for in the UN Security Council. And of course, we have the best wishes and best hope that we shall come out strong. But for the Kenyan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think this is the time we need to reevaluate our strategy. We need to reevaluate our policy to ensure that in the coming days, we shall know correctly who our friends are, and we can always count on them. So let this be a benchmark for our future endeavors in terms of foreign policy. Otherwise, I wish Kenya all the best in these afternoon's votes.
Miriam.
All right, I think I'll just echo what Daniel Wesonga there has just said. I think moving forward, Kenya, I hope, has learned a lesson when it comes to diplomatic engagements. You can't just assume that because you had coffee with this person, you had dinner with this person, and so they have your back. It is never like that, because at the end of the day, a country is always out there. They're looking out for their own interests. So moving forward, Kenya, next time, whatever happens, whether we win or whatever will happen, because we don't know what will happen. But moving forward, I hope that is a lesson that Kenya has learned in terms of diplomatic engagements. And also, I think this clearly, Kenya will learn also its friends and how to engage, and the people that purport to be our friends, and how to engage with them moving in the future. Kenya, I know we are very good-hearted. We have very wide arms. You're always welcoming and always warm. I think it's time also, perhaps we might want to start thinking about our own interest and be just a little bit selfish and see what is good for Kenya and who is good for Kenya, who is the friends of Kenya, and how can we engage with them moving forward. And also on the issue of Ethiopia, I think this is becoming, Doctor, a very big issue now, and it's getting out of hand. Kenya should start, after this is done, and I know COVID-19 has really jumbled up everything up, but I think after the voting is done and all that, Kenya should start a process of engaging with Ethiopia and find out what really is the problem and how can it be fixed, and is it fixable? Because some of these things, Doctor, as we said there, a fallacy. Could be Ethiopia is also assuming that Kenya has a problem with it, in maybe it's just a misunderstanding. So we need that sorted. We need an engagement in that regard, and so we don't want any more enemies. There's no need for that. So we need that taken up and sorted out. And Kenya, being the bigger person, can initiate, the process.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you. Take away. The United Nations Security Council non-permanent rotational seat has created one of the biggest divide in African unity. Yesterday, Africa was split on the question of Anglo-speaking, Afro-speaking, and French-speaking. The world saw the same United African Union, country that was nominated, have its votes secured, ended up having 113 votes because of the divisions that are caused by the non-African states that have captured the African Union. Not only capturing the African Union, but dismembered the African Union and African unity. Every time you go to a conference as an African, you first have to know, to get worded on how a resolution will pass. Because French-speaking countries will rally behind a resolution that favors the French against if it is brought by the English-speaking countries. The same fight is taking place in the African Union today. The deputy chairperson of African Union, who is a Ghanaian, is standing against a French-sponsored sponsored African Union Chairperson Muhammad Faki. The division is wider. The division is real. Given the COVID, it has widened. Today, what we see in New York, whatever outcome comes, whatever comes out of New York, whether Kenya wins, which will be, which we hope will be, it will leave a divided Africa. And that's the Africa we are not interested in. We are interested in a united Africa. Thank you very much. Viewers, this is the end of MATSANGA Africa Perspective. I want to thank my panel for having participated very nicely. I hope the learners back at home, you have also picked a few points. If there is anything that you want us to add on, my email is africastrategy@hotmail.com. You can send all your emails. I will answer them, especially students in the universities who are not doing their lessons. You are welcome. You can be told more. And I will talk about more about the fallacy, the theory of the Miriam's fallacy. I will tell Miriam offline.
Yes.
What actually created
mistake
an
of
impression that Ethiopia was with us. All right. Thank you very much, viewers. This station is for Africa. This station is with Africa. This station is by Africa. Ciao.